from the lighter side of pest control. This is the Tales from the Crawl Space podcast with your hosts, Jack and Brad.
Hey, good evening once again. Good morning, whenever the hell you're listening to this. Welcome to another bone-jarring episode of Tales from the Crawl Space. And with me, as always, over there in beautiful Virginia is Jack. How's it going, buddy?
It's going good, and if I don't see you later, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Yes, Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea.
That's right. Hey, doing good. Do you smell that deodorant? I think we got someone else in the fucking closet here. What's that? You smell that?
Yeah, it smells. It reeks of dirty river water and Malort.
I smell deep dish pizza too. Is that what I smell?
Deep dish pizza, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that can only mean one thing. Once again, our surprise guest, the Slim Reaper himself, Kevin Wilhite, is deigned to appear on our show. So, Kevin, welcome back, man. How have you been?
Gentlemen, thank you for having me back. Been great, thank you. That smell that you smell is actually me. I just got out of the bathtub full of Italian beef juice, so I just wanted to be ready. So I take a full dip, and then I was ready to go. So here we are.
So you take the dip. That includes both buns, right?
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Nice. Well, Kevin, it's great to have you on the show again, and we're gonna get right into the subject here of our show is Tales from the Rat Hole. We're going to talk about the disgusting and scary and funny aspects of the rodent control that we do in this thing of ours. Now, speaking of ornery and disgusting, I want to take a moment to kind of raise awareness to the something that happened late in June in Northern California. Some of our brothers out there in Northern California at Accurate Fumigation had a little bit of a problem. Apparently, they were just finishing a fumigation job, and somebody come across and opened fire on them, and they got shot, man. I mean, they're just doing their fucking jobs, and ended up with three of the employees are wounded. One of them was shot in the head, and I haven't had a recent update yet, but last time I heard he was clinging to life, and this is just ridiculous. I mean, you can't. You should be able to go out and do your thing and, get the job done without having to worry about somebody rolling up on you and just throwing lead at you. And so anyway, to help these guys out, I mean, they're going to be out of work for some time. And so there's a GoFundMe out there. So if you just get on GoFundMe.com and, the Family Support Fund, look up Accurate Fumigation, it looks like a lot of cheese bags have stepped up from PCHD and gave a donation, and that just tells you what kind of guys and gals we are here at PCHD, and I think it's great. So if you got a buck or two to spare, get on that GoFundMe. Let's help these guys out.
Yeah, definitely. I tell you, shit like that, man, absolutely fucking reprehensible. What the fuck's wrong with people? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, reprehensible. That's one of the big economics Labrador Retriever words.
Hey, sometimes I break out the syllables, man. Sometimes I break them out.
Yeah, nice. So anyway, so get on there and check it out. Maybe give a few bucks. Anything that you give, doesn't matter what size it is. Size doesn't matter in things like this. It's that you gave. Show them that you support them and you want them to be taken care of.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But on to the rodents.
The rodents.
We got some good stories that were submitted from some cheese bags and from Instagram and stuff. So we got some good stories there. I know Kevin's got some seriously good shit from Chicago, and where the Bears are from. And I got some good ones myself, and I know you've got some good ones.
Yes, Kevin, you there?
I am here.
Okay.
here.
He was talking to you, man, because I told him before the show I got nothing.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm definitely ready when you guys are.
Everybody gave their stories to Jack this week for some reason.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. I mean, I'll tell you what. Okay, Kevin, give me your single most amazing, outrageous, holy fucking shit rodent moment.
Well, that has to be when I first got into the business, guys. I was sent to work in sort of what's called the West Loop of Chicago, which kind of encompasses the area along the Chicago River, which, if you know anything about Chicago, is the worst part of Chicago when it comes to rats. So I look at my ticket stack for the day because when I started, we were still working off paper tickets, a million years ago. And it said for the waste management facility on Goose Island. And I'm like, okay, this should be interesting. So I get up there and the service manager meets me over there and he goes, okay, that's where you've got to go. And he points to this building and I go, well, where am I supposed to go? And he goes, I'll show you. So he goes and pulls open this giant wrought iron door and there's this dimly lit area that's about 300 yards and it's like a mountain of compressed garbage. And he goes, we got a trap line going all the way through here. So I'll see you on the other side. I thought it was a joke at first. I'm like, is this a hazing place? Like, this guy can't really be serious, right? And so he goes, no, I'm dead serious. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to wuss out. So I grab my rat bucket and I go in there, and sure enough, there is the trap line in there. So I get about maybe 3 or 4 steps in before the rat starts shooting out of the ground from this mountain of garbage and starts to attack me. So I'm running through this thing to the other side. I finally get out of there. And then the next time I come back there, I bring a pitching wedge with me, and I have a whole different experience. So,
nice.
But they didn't get me the second time as well as they did the first time. I had a respirator and a pitching wedge, so I was ready for those rats the second time through. The only other one that was as crazy was we got a call from a factory where they had a giant concrete pad on the outside with a big piece of equipment on top of it. And rats in the area had gotten in and started burrowing under this equipment. And it was right when we had started using Rosol in the company that I worked for before I started my own. And so a couple of the guys and myself are out there with dusters, and we got the blue Rosol, and we start shooting into this holes. And before you know it, we've got 30 blue rats just running all over the parking lot. And the facility manager outside screaming at my boss, like, okay, I wanted you guys to kill the rats, but this is not exactly what I had in mind when I asked you. So those two definitely stand out as some of the crazier ones. And then, of course, the great Jerry Willis, rest in peace, who was probably the most hardcore exterminator I've ever seen in my life. He was a 6'8" former Marine who would carry a machete with him. I drove to Cabrini Green one day, and I saw him with a loaf of bread, peanut butter, and a bucket of Rosol, and he was making death sandwiches. So he put these Rosol and peanut butter sandwiches together, walk into the trash rooms of Cabrini Green in the high-rise, and literally hand feed these sandwiches directly to the rats.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
I saw that and I was like, you know what, man, I might be tough, but I ain't never going to be Jerry Willis tough. That's for sure.
You're going to be feeding peanut butter sandwiches tough.
No, not quite as hard as that guy. That's for sure.
Yeah, those guys like Jerry Lewis, and they're the ones that really turned me on to the business back in the day when I first started out. I was like, I want to be like this guy. I want to come in reeking of smelling like an ashtray, and whatever I drank the night before is come in, not give a fuck, and yet still get the job done. And
here's the train.
There's the train.
I thought somebody was being abducted by aliens for a moment. I'm like, what's going on here?
No, that's the old Virginia 715.
That's right.
It's made more appearances on here than you.
Yes, it has, actually.
But yeah. I mean, I tell you what, it seems to me like the lifers, they know how to deal with shit like big ass rats, and it seems to me like they can get into a rat's head, and it's just amazing. It was amazing to watch, and now I'm an old fart, and to be honest with you, I don't have a whole lot of I've got some rat experience, but not at the caliber that you do, Kevin. But my experiences are pretty much limited to burrows out by I'll say a restaurant that's famous for their slow roasted beef. Had a really good time out there. Nice landscaping out there, but the landscaping looked like the Shire. I mean, there were hobbit holes everywhere, and we were trying to figure out what to do without causing too much of a hassle with diners looking out and watching them. So got some decorative rocks, got some of the big traps to put in there, and baited them with Betty Crocker chocolate frosting. And I must have taken out about 15 or 20 of those things, those rats, just out of their front. And they were, diners were complaining that they would see rats, but then they were saying, well, they'd go in these boxes, but they wouldn't come out. And it's like, well, that's the idea. And but the damnedest thing is, you try. Rats are. Everybody knows rats are bait shy. They get. They're not real trusting of anything new in their path. And you get. But that chocolate frosting, man, it drawed them the hell in, and it was great. I've got a picture around somewhere. I'd like to dig up and post on Facebook. But I had about five or six kills in one. I had them all the way from fryer size to roasting size, and kind of lined up because I think the technical director of the company I was with at the time didn't believe me. It's like, you're going to try that? No, you need to use Slim Jims or Provoke. I was like, Provoke is shit. And so Ellen, my beautiful bride, let me know that she goes, well, we've got some frosting in the cupboard that's about to go out. I said, I'll take it, and sure as shit, it worked. I come to find out later on that rats really dig the chocolate and mice really dig the vanilla.
That's shit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a big fan of the sardine juice myself on the wooden snap traps. I found to have pretty great success with interior rat catching with that over the years. So pre-baiting the wood snaps with the actual sardines, and then when you actually set the trap, pulling the actual sardines off and just soaking the wooden trap in the sardine juice seems to get amazing results. Again, exterior rat issues are kind of like, to me, getting a cut on your finger versus interior rat issues is kind of like getting shot in the leg.
Yeah.
Not exactly the same thing. And, we have to constantly educate the customers about why we can't use poison inside when we have rats. Unless they want to have their house smell pretty horrible for, a few weeks. But yeah, like I said, everybody has kind of their own little secret concoctions that they like to use, and hey, whatever works and gets results, I'm all for it.
Well, I got one for you. Along the lines of the Rosal peanut butter sandwich, Rubbermaid out here on the East Coast has factories all around the Mid-Atlantic area, and they have these big silos of these plastic pellets that they use for making their stuff. And right around the silo, I had a bunch of burrows that were going down along the side of the silo and under. And we'd set, the guy before me had set bait boxes out and everything, and it really didn't address the problem. So going there first thing, I went to the local cheap grocery store and got a pack of the cheapest hot dogs they had and a pack of Ziploc bags. Sat in the parking lot of Rubbermaid, and I cut these things into about 1-inch sections, put them in the bag, and put about 3 tablespoons of ZP. And I made ZP hot dog shake and bake.
There you go.
And I started pitching these little weenies, ZP Weenies, down the holes of the burrow. The next morning when I went to check, all around that damn silo, there was about 35 rats dead outside of the silo, outside of the burrows around that silo. So,
sweet.
ZP Weenies for the win.
Nice. No kidding. We were talking last week about dogs with laser beams on their freaking heads. I'm sure both of you have seen some of the videos. I think it's like in England and Scotland they do it a lot. They get them dogs out there and they're like a pile of hay. They'll lift it up and these fucking rats are going everywhere and these dogs are just going batshit over them. And
I love those,
shaking the piss out of them. Oh God, I could watch those all day.
Awesome.
Yeah. A couple of, and I've seen some videos. I've seen a video of like a group, and they're just I don't want to say amateurs, but they're not professionals. They're not paid to do this, but they get together with their dogs out in New York at night and go onto these vacant lots and whatnot, and just turn their dogs loose and just let them catch rats. And yeah, I'll put, if I can find it, I'll put a link up on Facebook. But yeah, it's just really cool to watch. To be able to to use something like dogs and whatnot to help us help them.
I tell you, that video is almost as fun as watching I think it was University of Florida had the video of the phorid flies that were implanting eggs behind the heads of the fire ants.
Mm-hmm.
And that video is fun to watch too. I got to just had to throw that. I fucking love that video.
Yeah.
I get a little jealous when I see those terrier videos, though, because I wish people had a stomach for that kind of structural and property damage that those guys are doing when digging up those holes. But also, it's kind of hard to dig through concrete in the city, so unfortunately, that's not going to work for us. Most
right?
Of the time.
Yeah. Your situation is more urbane than this, but still a cool view nonetheless.
Oh, absolutely, and those squeaks are very satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Well. I gotta say, with massive burrows, when I worked for the second largest school system in the country, we'd try to stay away from using baits as much as possible because kids, you don't want anything dragging bait out or whatever. So we had to stay away from that as much as possible. But we had this one school that had an apartment complex, just past the fence on the property that butted up to the back of it. And the dumpsters in that apartment complex were right there at the fence line. And the rats had started burrowing on school property. And it was like the biggest game of whack-a-mole you'd ever seen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, so what we used was giant destroyers. Are you familiar with giant destroyers, Brad?
I am not. Please elaborate.
They're Kevin, you familiar with giant destroyers?
I'm not.
Okay, it's a big, it looks like a gigantic firecracker, but it's basically a sulfur smoke bomb. And what you do is you light it and you stick it down in the burrow, and you got to find the other two burrow entrances and kick them shut.
Mm-hmm.
And then you stick this giant destroyer down, you light it, and you push it down as far as you can with a stick, and it fills the burrow with this thick sulfur smoke, and it chokes them to death.
Well, that sounds very familiar to what we were doing in the city with this product that was called rat ice, and we're still doing it with dry ice when we have burrows that are located in areas like landscaping.
Yeah.
So I did one for the Chicago Police Department, and we had probably 14 or 15 burrows. We went out there, we filled them up with the dry ice, and then, up to about 4 or 5 inches away from the burrow top, and then we put pea gravel on top of the dry ice and compacted it all down. We came back there a few days later. There were no survivors. It was
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and that's a low VOC, low chemical answer. Again, you're not putting anybody at risk because there's literally nothing that could hurt a human being involved in that process.
Right.
And the results speak for themselves too. So yeah, I think anything like that where you can get them down in the burrows is really going to pay off pretty quickly too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as long as you can keep them down there to get it, so they can asphyxiate.
Yeah.
Back when I first started out, when I worked at the Big Green Tea, we had the Big Green binder, and they were using things, something called cyanogas.
Mm-hmm.
And basically pellets that you would put in the you'd either put them in there, or you would have a pump you'd put the pellets in the pump, and then you would pump that gas into. I mean, it was cyanide, and
Right.
you would just sit there and let them die, and then you'd stand there with a baseball bat to take care of the ones that tried to stagger out. And I mean, there was that. I mean. The stuff that they used back in the day just seems, oh my gosh, I can't even think about using it now. There was a product called 1080 that apparently was some sort of bait product that they would put out, or at least the active ingredient, and there was no antidote to that. I mean, the method of treatment for exposure to it was get your affairs in order. So, I'd like to think that these days that, we're a lot safer now, and we can't do, the dry ice that Kevin mentioned was, that's news to me, and it just sounds really cool and really innovative, and just a hell of a lot safer.
Yeah, I've got some videos I can send you about that. I mean, it's really been great as far as, like I said, just exterior burrows that are in sort of landscaping areas. If they go underneath the concrete and things like that, obviously it's not going to seal, so it's not going to work as effective. But yeah, landscaping areas along perimeters of buildings where you get them, where they're kind of, out there on their own. And, in Chicago this past winter, we didn't get an extended period of cold where the ground would actually freeze. So all winter long, the rats were able to burrow this past winter, 22 into 23. So right now, the city is absolutely overrun with rats like I've never seen in my life. But I've also never seen a winter where the ground didn't freeze either. So, there's sort of a causational factor there. But yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. I mean, you drive down the city at night now, and you just see the rats running everywhere. I mean, it's really remarkable.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I lived in Baltimore for a while, and that was a very common occurrence. Seeing rats run all over the place.
The thing with Baltimore, I think that wasn't so much as the ground didn't freeze. It's just it was more the fact that it was just, from what I saw, it was just completely mishandled.
Yeah, well, they actually had a contest for a while called rat fishing. It was like a bass tournament for rats, and what people would do is they'd actually have a weigh-in competition. You'd go out to these alleys with a fishing pole and put like a piece of old pork chop on a hook, and you'd cast it down the alley. And when some bitch would come grab it, you'd reel them in. And they actually had weigh-ins and like prizes and shit. And Baltimore actually had to outlaw rat fishing because it actually became a sport that people would bet on and make money on.
Oh, for crying out loud!
Not kidding.
Doing rats, who gives a shit?
It's inhumane.
It's inhumane. Fuck that. You want inhumane? Look at some of these tenements and shit in Baltimore where they're actually having people live, and But anyway, I digress. Kevin, I know we got some stories that Jack has that he wants he's going to share, but I want to come back to you and ask you about baiting. Baiting for rats. I mean, what's your take on it? You've talked about a lot of different things that you've done to eliminate, an acute issue or what have you. And, baiting, what's your take on it?
Well, as far as rats go, in my experience, I haven't had much success with block baits with rats. So I primarily use soft baits in my accounts where I know I have rat activity. I mean, I still get away with block baits for mice, but it seems to be, I don't know if it's the greasiness or the consistency of the soft baits, but the rats really seem to go for it like crazy. And, again, we're not doing a lot of burrow baiting these days. Some of it where needed, but most of that stuff we're trying to handle with either the rat ice or, tracking powders, things like that, or, even regular with Evos. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I have to say that luckily most of my sort of regular clients, we make sure to keep an eye on the exterior so we don't get a ton of crazy ones. But I posted some pictures on the depot the other day of one that I inherited.
Right.
And they look like they couldn't have been more neglected if you tried.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember you put a disclaimer on that about the condition of the stations.
Yeah, I was like, please don't harangue me about this. This is not my doing. I don't want to.
Cheese bags are going to cheese bag, and they would have jumped all over that had you not done that.
Look, you know what? I don't have any problem with people keeping people in the industry on their toes and demanding people do a good job. I actually kind of root for that and kind of like it. Keep the quality high, but yeah, just because I know the temperament of that particular group, I'm like, I'm not going to spend the rest of my night.
You just have to be balls deep in a bunch of fucking comments. I get it.
I got enough problems in my life without having that.
There you go.
But it's jarring sometimes when you see some of this stuff when you go out there. And look, I'm not going to, crap on anybody because I see the same stuff with big companies and small companies. It's not endemic to just one type of company. But I think, look, the customers have to keep up on that too. I had a lady that was a QC manager of one of my old accounts for a food plant. And in the days before handheld scanners, she would put a little ticket inside one of the exterior stations and change it before every visit. And you would have to present her with this ticket before she would sign your paperwork, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
At least she knew that you were doing everything, right?
Right.
So
the Prussian, I used to do a Prussian grocery store chain that would do that as well. And it's like the district or the region manager would stick a card in there and then put a scribble on it. Call me when you find this. And I'd call him. I'd leave a message. And I'd say, okay, what did I win? And it's like you didn't give me nothing. It's like, where's my cookie? God damn it! I feel the same way that you do about baits. I think soft baits are awesome, and but as far as burrow baiting, I get a little puckered when I have to do it. Because of I've seen rats just like, well, fuck, I don't want to eat this right now, so they'll drag it out of the nest, and the next thing you know, a dog comes along and eats it, and then you got problems.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I mean, I'm not sure about where you guys are at, but at least in from what we do, we can only use pellet baits in the burrows here.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't really run a risk of a lot of, like, let's say lethal or even getting your dog sick amount of bait being transferred out because it's pellets, right? And so when we put this stuff in, we kind of space it out. You pour a little bit, push it down, pour a little bit, so it's not sort of right there at the apex of the burrow. So that kind of stuff is mitigated, but your concern is valid too. That's why I've become a big fan of this dry ice. And, there's these other things I've seen, like a Burrow X machine that some people on the depot use too, with the gas that goes right in there. I mean, all that stuff is a great alternative to pouring a lot of poison into the ground.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because once that stuff evaporates, it's gone.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. I think that those things, look, everything is a tool in the toolbox, and everything has a time and a place. Situationally, you're going to come across all different kinds of things in this kind of work. But, it's best to keep an open mind and say, what is the best tool to accomplish the task here? And, try not to rule anything out.
Amen.
Yeah,
Amen.
Absolutely. Kevin, I'm always smarter after I talk to you.
Well, it's nice to, Jack, you have not lost your ability to tell a good lie, so I appreciate that. Fuzzy here.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I got to tell you, we got some good stories from Instagram and on Facebook from Cheese Bags. I got one here from Ruben Romero off of Instagram. He says, a rat story. I was working for the Big D, and I got a call about a rat in a bathroom. I get to the stop, and the lady's in tears. She tells me she hasn't been able to use the restroom since last night. I go into the bathroom, which is a towel at the bottom, to make sure that Mickey can't get out. And I open the door, and sure enough, 2 rats are in the bathroom. This is where it's confirmed that rats can come up through toilets. One way in the toilet like was in the toilet like it was a hot tub, and the other's near the shower stall. I have a box of traps with me and nothing else. I start sweating bullets. I now have to put myself between 2 rats wanting to survive. Old jacuzzi rat is first. I grab a plunger and push the rat down while flushing the toilet. I can feel him fighting with all he's got, but he eventually goes back down. Now rat number 2, who watched his homeboy get flushed away, so I set a trap in my hand and slowly inch towards the rat to deliver him the great beyond. He isn't quite ready to go yet. He runs around along the bathroom walls. Over and over, he stops, so I try again with the trap, but this time he runs right at me and up my leg.
Oh, shit.
I kick him off, and he hits the wall and comes back for another shot at my leg, gets kicked off, and then runs to the spot he was at when I came in. At this point, I set traps all around the baseboard. Now I go to scare him so he'll run into a trap, and the son of a bitch runs and jumps over every damn trap and lands on the corner, huffing and puffing. I, with sweat in my eyes, come up with a Hail Mary. I threw my keys at the trap and nailed the SOB. The trap catches him, and I leave without charging the lady. I got my trophy.
Nice. Excellent.
Outstanding.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Mano y mano.
Exactly. It's man versus rodent.
I got to tell you, I had one attack me. I was doing DC takes all their trash out to New York Avenue, and gets it all in one place and hauls it out of town in 18-wheelers. They don't actually deal with it in town. So for some reason, they had bait boxes all over this place, and it's just, I don't get that, because you've got food, diapers, dead hookers, you name it, all in this land. This not just big piles of trash, but I go check in the boxes, and all of them are empty. Go figure. I get to one, and I open it up, and this big bastard must have been sleeping in there, because he was awful pissed off when I opened it. He came out, he had boils all over him, and most of his fur was missing, and he was all scroungy looking. Some bitch run up, sunk his teeth in the toe of my boot. So, so I flung my foot and kicked him away from me. He hit the concrete little block divider between these lanes of trash, and I ran up and stomped on his head.
There you go.
Nice.
The only thing I could do, the little bastard was trying to bite me, so, and he was big. He's about the size of a mid-sized cat, at least.
Yeah.
So he's a fat bastard.
If you ever really want to see a look of fear wash over someone, just stomp a rat in front of them if they've never seen it before, and it definitely gets quite a reaction. I had to do that to some guy about a week ago. There was a rat running around in the lobby of one of my regular stops, and so I pried the door open to the courtyard. I chased it out into the courtyard, and I told the guy, hey, if you're squeamish, go upstairs, just, let me do my thing. And he's like, okay, all right, So I'm out there chasing this SOB around, and finally I get a hold of it, and I stomp it, and I turn around, and I see this guy's taping me. But now he's taping me, his hand starts shaking like crazy after he sees me murder this rat. Okay, let's have some fun. You want to tape me? No problem. So I pick it up, and I just look to him, and I go, "World Star," and he was like, I thought it was hilarious personally, but I don't think he liked it. So I texted the building manager. I'm like, by the way, I think your front desk man may need some PTSD therapy in the morning, so sorry about that.
Oh my God! I have to say, it's amazing how resourceful we get when we're dealing with these fuckers, isn't it? Because I'm out in Morristown, Indiana, doing McMillan Blodell lumber place. I get out there, and this is like my first or second time in the place, and I'm going through their warehouse, and I hear this scraping noise behind a stack of 2x2s. Well, it looks like somebody decided to set one of those big rat glue boards back there, and I got a fucking rat with both hind legs stuck in it, and he's struggling with the front legs trying to get away from this damn thing. And I look over and I see a 2x2 that's about baseball bat size, and I go over and I just pummel the fucker. And there's dudes walking by, and it's like, "What the fuck are you beating on?" I said, "Come on over here and find out, motherfucker." They get over there, and I'm just wailing on this fucker. The damn thing refuses to die, and I connected with this guy's skull at least 3 times.
Oh, wow.
And it took about 6 whacks for me to finally put this fucker down, right? And, so I pick it up. I'm carrying it over to my truck, and who is over in my truck? The goddamn state chemist. It's like, fuck, it's like, okay, it's a rat. It's no big deal. I killed a rat. He can't do anything about it. There's no regulation against that. But there was a again, I was only 6 weeks into the job. There was a regulation about having my toolbox unlocked.
Oh.
And having a stronger mixture in my B&G than I should have had. So I not only did I end up having to fuck with a dead rat, but I also got a fine out of it because of some of the other shit that was going on in my truck. Lesson learned.
Yeah, no, yeah, sure. I got to tell you, the one thing I've consistently heard from innocent bystanders when I've had to either stomp on them or pick up the trap because he got caught by the tail and whack his ass against the wall is what the fuck?
Yeah.
They see you do that, they're like, oh, what the fuck, man?
Yeah. I mean, I just see these fucking rats. It's like they're greasy. They leave all these greasy marks and shit. They piss and they shit everywhere. They look disgusting. There's people in the world that fucking eat them.
Yeah, no, I've seen those videos from like the Pacific Rim of these little islands where people like just knocking them out and frying them and shit. It's just fucked up.
Oh yeah, they'll like some of these fuckers will like chase them, grab them by the tail, and then flip them, then whack right on the ground and take them out like that. And, oh, yeah, next thing you know, they're cooking dinner and everything. Now, I understand cultures are different and shit, but, I couldn't do it.
Now,
I guarantee you, Brad, if you had to live on only coconuts for 6 or 7 months, that rat is going to probably start looking real good to you after a while. That's all I know.
I get that, Kevin, but damn it, when I'm 5 minutes away from a T-bone steak sitting in a case somewhere in a mire, it's tough to wrap my mind around. I try to be understanding, but it's what it is.
Well, to segue from eating rats, Eric McPhee sent us a story, and it's called Rat Soup is the name of the story.
Segueing away from eating rats?
Yeah, so it's called Rat Soup. The previous company that I worked for had an exclusive rodent-only position, and the guy in it was labeled the Rat King. I had the honor of achieving that position after a year with the company, so one gloriously hot summer day, I got a job at a relatively fancy apartment in Dallas. I didn't get full details on the job, besides that I needed to check a trap somewhere in the apartment. As soon as the lady opened the door, I was hit with a wave of heat and the dank smell of death. Turns out her AC doesn't work, and something obviously was dead somewhere, making the smell nearly unbearable. She tells me somebody had put a box in the crawl space and showed me where. So I open it, pop my head in, and sure enough, there was a single Evo ambush box in there. So I take my head out and reach up to pull it out. As soon as I'm starting to take it out, black juice starts to run out of the opening of the box and pour on me and her desk below. I quickly checked to see if she noticed, and she didn't, thankfully. So I carefully took it out, told her that I would be right back, and walked as quickly and carefully all the way to the dumpsters that I could find. When I opened the box to check it out, it was filled with almost all the way to the openings on the sides with black juice and a completely deflated rat, looking like a wet sock puppet. I've seen a good amount of rat death and that gore in that position, but that's something about that rat juice that makes me queasy when I think about it. Thank you, Eric McPhee.
Wow.
That's a tough one to drink away, Jack.
Yeah, no, that leaves a taste in your mouth. That does.
It does, yeah. Like rat. Well, goodness.
Well, Brad, I got to tell you, I got one here that this is, you did not preview any of these stories, but
I did not.
One of our favorite first date ass eaters is the dater. Sent in a story. And he goes, haha, okay, let me know if it's not PG enough to go on the show. I will understand. And I'm like, dude, come on, we go balls out. So.
Really?
He says, this story is best told in third person. Before the exterminator was created, he was a degenerate high schooler volunteering at a wildlife rehab center during the summer. This was foreshadowing of his future to come. He and his best friend at the time had the genius idea to have a wild party with all the cute older women who were actually their bosses at the end of the summer. One in particular had her way with him that night, and the only bathroom left in the house had 2 pet rats caged in it. The party was found out by the higher-ups in the charity later, and all of the women lost their jobs. Tater and his friend had a legendary story to show for it, though. To this day, he cannot go into a client's house that had pet rodents without getting the Vietnam flashbacks to a simpler time.
I love that guy.
That was from our past and future guest, Issa Tater, the man who eats ass on the first date.
That's right. He does. Oh, my
He's
God.
an innocent man, that's for sure.
No.
Well, at least he got the booty out of it.
He was just using those rats as an excuse to tell a story about when he tore off a piece when he was younger.
Can you blame him? Really? Can you blame him?
Absolutely not. I can't blame the fucker at all. In fact, my hat's off to him.
Damn right. Damn right. Well,
Lord.
At the school system I worked at, one of the elementary schools that my sister actually works at has a little greenhouse in one of the courtyards on the inside. Like, they have like these little squares inside the building, which have like, sunlight and grass and little greenhouse for the kids to grow stuff. Well, they hadn't been using the greenhouse, and they were storing all their grass seed and other seed at ground level in this damn greenhouse. Well, yeah. I go in, I check with my sister. She says, let me show you where it is. And we start walking towards this little courtyard. And as I get through the door into the sunlight, along the ribs, the little support ribs of this polyplastic greenhouse. I see mice running up and down all over the place. I mean, it was active as hell, broad daylight. So I'm like, what did y'all put in here? She goes, oh, I think they're putting like the flower seeds and the vegetable seeds and the grass seed. I'm like, oh, Christ. So I open it up, and there's at least 40 to 50 mice just running willy-nilly all over this damn thing. I step right in it. My sister's screaming and dancing around. Oh, my God, just freaking out. The little bastards are running across my feet. I'm stomping like I'm doing the Irish jig on these damn mice. And it was the craziest thing to see that many broad daylight running around, just crazy. It was nuts. I was laughing my ass off the whole time, and I don't think my sister, I don't think my sisters looked at me the same way ever since.
You ever like do like a department store or a grocery store or something like that? You're checking the aisles out, and all of a sudden you see a rodent, be it a rat, a mouse, or whatever. He decides to dart out right in the middle of the aisle, and you're stomping through there like you're William Hurt in Altered States, just fucking trying to kill this fucker, and he keeps getting away from you. And the customers and the employees are looking at you like you lost your fucking mind. And I did that at the World of Wally one time, and the World of Wally was notorious. I mean, they caused most of their own shit because they would get these pallets of things, garden goods and whatnot, and they would stage them outside in the lawn and garden area until the shelves inside were empty, and then they'd bring them in. Well, what are they doing? They're bringing all the fucking mice and shit in.
Right.
Good times. Good times.
Well, the stomping thing, I got to tell you, I was the in-house sanitarian for what used to be A&P Grocery Warehouse, where they would, ship it all out to all the different stores. So they had 2 dry storage buildings, 1 frozen storage building, and another cold storage building. Now, when I would do the dry ones, I'd walk up and down all the aisles. I had tin cats all over the place. And the problem is when they pull these pallets in and out, they end up crushing the tin cats all the time. So I go through the pet food aisle, and I catch this smell as I'm walking past.
Right.
So I keep going back and forth to try to narrow it down where it's coming from. And, the little pedigree pouches of wet dog food?
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently the mice had gone under the pallet and burrowed their way into the center of this pallet of pedigree wet dog food.
Ooh.
So I had the guy with the forklift come grab the thing, and as he's picking it up, mice are just pouring out of the bottom. So I'm sitting there stomping, and, like I said earlier, the guy on the forklift's going, oh, man, what the fuck? And I'm sitting there stomping these things. We get it over to this box in the corner, and I lay a bunch of glue boards out around the inside of this box. It's the corner of the building, so it's like 2 cinder block walls, and then they had plywood about a foot high that I could put on the other side to close it in like a box. And so I started unpacking this pallet, and mice just started coming out, and they're just getting stuck on all the glue boards I had laying around the side of it. I got a
nice
shit ton of mice out of that. But when I was doing the waffle stomp on the mice out in the fucking aisle, and the forklift driver's about ready to throw up out the side of the forklift.
Damn. I had a great one. Talking about glue boards. It's like you would people will lay these glue boards out and then just like forget about them. And then you go in behind them. And I had one lady. She's like, I saw a mouse on a glue board, and it's still alive. And I'm like, oh God, not another one. Because those, if you're using like the paper glue boards or 72 TCs or MBs or whatever, you would take you just if you've got a live one on there, it's just a matter of you folding over and just saying shh, shh, shh. Soon it will all be over.
Go to sleep.
And sleep. And then you close it down, it squeaks a little bit, and then you take it out of the parking lot, stomp it, and you're done. Well, she's like, I said, ma'am, this is not alive, it's dead. And she goes, no, look at it, it's still moving. I said, yeah, I know it's moving, and I just had no other choice. Fortunately, I had about 3 pins in my pocket. I took one of the pins that I hated the most and jabbed the mouse, and maggots came out of it. That's why it's moving. She's like, oh my God. I said, ma'am, there's nothing we can do for him now. She's expecting me to go out in the parking lot, pull it off the glue board and, born free and release the fucker.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
well, shit, it happens a lot. It happens more than you think because, I've had hippie employees go through to my tin cats and shit, open them up and release them back into the wild. It's like, all right, I'll be back in 2 weeks pulling the same goddamn mouse out of this trap.
Yep.
And, it's just like, leave them the fuck alone.
I fucking hate that shit.
I've had a few people like that over the years, too. We had a lady that was also kind of hippie-ish, and she was like, well, I thought that you guys were just going to catch them and release them. And I said, what part of exterminator lends you to be an animal relocation company, right?
You just want to take them out in the parking lot and do one of two things. You either want to take them out in the parking lot and slap some sense into them, or you want to take them out in the parking lot, get in their car, smoke a joint with them, and say, hey, look, this is how it's got to be, man.
I had a whole thing planned. We were going to go in the woods. We were going to do ayahuasca. I was going to try to tell them, now listen, you don't want to go into this building anymore. I had a whole thing planned out for them.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, this is part of the cycle of the universe. Things die, and sometimes we cause it.
It's mystery.
One of the most exciting ones that I've ever had, though, and I tried to save this one for last, was about 5 years ago. I got called for a burnt-out liquor store on the southeast side of the city, and the thing was actually on the block over from where H.H. Holmes had his famous murder hotel. Mm-hmm. So, this part of the city is pretty old, and it's got sort of these old dirt tunnels underneath the place. But because it had a fire, there were no lights in there. So the guy met me at the place and popped open the back door, and he's like, go ahead, man, good luck. He's like, I'm not going in there. So I get my respirator on, I got my headlamp on, and I got 2 buckets, one with some traps and just one that's empty just in case. So I'm going through this place. I mean, it's pitch black. The only thing I can see is what's right in front of me with this headlamp on. So I'm going through and I'm setting traps, and probably about 12 traps in where I start hearing bam, bam, bam. So I turned around and I'm like, what the hell is that sound, right? I got 3 catches already. So I started going through this place, and I'm just setting this whole bucket of traps one by one, and I'm just hearing, as I'm walking behind me, just bam, bam, one after another. So I'm going through, I'm collecting these rats, I'm resetting the traps. I walked out of there, the entire 5-gallon Home Depot bucket was full of rats by the time I even got out of there from the initial set.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that's great.
I've never seen anything like it, but it's such a creepy thing because you're looking in front of you and all you can see is what's, just right in front of you with this headlamp on. And all of a sudden, in the background, you're just hearing things die one after another. Just it was the greatest horror movie I'd ever been a part of.
Yeah, but it's the horror that keeps us going. Yeah.
I mean, it was really that was quite a day. I don't think I've ever experienced anything quite like that in the field, but yeah, that was definitely really interesting. And then, like I said, having wooden or dirt tunnels underneath this place, just being held together with this old wood. They were actually burrowing in a sub basement of the building too. So it presented all kinds of interesting challenges. And I definitely felt like my game had upped a few levels after dealing with those guys. That's for sure.
Very good.
Well, there's a joy that comes with, if you set a trap like that, then you go somewhere else in the building and you hear it snap. It's almost like someone said, oh, we found another present behind the tree.
Yeah, I mean, and I know what you're saying, but this was more like a machine gun they were going off in such rapid succession. It was just unbelievable. Wow. I had never heard anything like it. And I started to wonder, I'm like, maybe I should get out of here. You're going to take me away pretty soon. There's so many rats in here, they're just going to take a bite out of me. But
yeah, I stuck around because the numbers were dropping with every pop.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little unnerving, but like I said, at least I knew it was dropping.
It's those creepy, dark places that I really get off on for some sick reason. And I don't know if it's the element of danger. I don't know if it's because I'm like a horror story freak or whatever. But the older the darker, the mustier it is, the more I get off on it.
And now, see, there's so many things I can say about that, Brad. You're leaving yourself wide open for comment.
Musty, yeah.
But I was going to ask, is it the dark place like that? Do you get off on or get off in because nobody's watching you?
I will leave that to the mysteries.
Well, I think that ties into a very important part of our job, though, Brad. And it's I mean, it is fun, but at the same time, it's a serious thing. Is that we get to go places and see things that most people will never see, especially people that go to the same office every day and sit at the same desk every day and stare at the same computer screen every day. Like I did time in corporate America as a young man, and I'd get in at 7 in the morning, and by 7:10, I'd be ready to go home. I don't think that I've ever had a day in pest control where I thought, man, this day is really dragging by. I really.
You see, Kevin, that's where I'm at right now because I'm back out in the field. I'm now I'm a technician again. I left management. I got out of the big corporation scene, and I can't remember a time where I've been happier with my work. And just being able to meet people and go to places like that, and it's been really great, and something I wish I would have done sooner.
Yeah, I mean, when you're out there with the people, look, it's hard work. It's not. There's nothing that's glamorous about it, that's for sure. And sometimes when I tell people what I do, they kind of give me a little bit of a side eye. And that's fine, because a lot of that opinion is based in ignorance, and not to say that's a bad thing, but people don't know the ins and outs of what we do. Hell, when I thought of pest control before I got into it, it was a completely different mental picture than what I had. But all that is to say that when we step into someone's house, we're going to walk out and have done something that's going to make their life better. And a lot of times they're not too shy about letting you know about that too, right? And I think that's a great thing when you go to work every day. It's kind of like that thing they used to say about dentists always would hate going to work because people would hate to see them. But I don't think there's too many times when people see us coming in where they're like, oh, here's this guy. It's almost like, thank God you're here. We need your help. Please come in, come quickly.
And the higher the thermometer goes, the more popular we are. And exactly. Also another thing is the fact that what I'm doing now, I feel more connected to that lifer that I was talking about earlier in the podcast than I have in a long time. I'm almost 59 now, and I'm that lifer now. I'm the guy that's walking around, picking up dead rodents and stuff, and eating a fucking piece of string cheese at the same time, and giving a fuck but not giving a fuck, and it's really great. Meanwhile, somebody else is back at the office, taking care of all the minutia and bullshit that I used to have to deal with on a daily basis. But I feel like I make much more of a difference now than I did back then.
Now it is more fun, right? I mean, come on.
Oh, fuck, Kevin! You have no idea how much more fun it is.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? When you're out there mixing it up all day, if you're not having fun, I don't think you're doing it the right way.
I will say one thing about this whole thing I'm doing now. It's like I think I have sweat more in the last 5 weeks than I have in the last 13 years, and it's been nice. I normally don't feel my taint when I walk, but the last couple of weeks, man, I felt every fucking step, man.
I don't think Shakespeare ever wrote a more beautiful sentence than that. So great job. But, it really is. I think there's a lot to be said for that too, because when I was a younger man and I worked in an office, I was, believe it or not, an overweight guy. And doing this kind of work, being on your feet all day, sweating, constantly going from one place to another, like it really does take it off of you, and it's a good thing, I think, for a lot of guys, because
5 weeks in, I've lost 10 pounds.
Damn right.
Yeah, but like a lot of guys, with the lifestyle are not going to go to the gym per se, or be it workout warriors. But when you're out there sweating all day, yeah, it is going to keep you in a certain size for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things I aspire to, is becoming your size. I'd like to become 6 foot, whatever the fuck you are. And
well, that's going to take some doing, but I'll have to get back to you if I.
Yeah, I'll have to spend some time on the rack.
There you go.
Hey, I got a story from one of your second in commands there, one of your cheese bags in charge, Miss Candace Norquist. She goes, "Here's my rodent story for you. Not super raunchy, but boy was it fun. One night around 4:30 p.m., my husband Brandon gets a call. A lady's on the other line, frantic and frustrated. She has a rental house that her brother has Parkinson's disease, rents from her, that is rodent-ridden. As soon as she described it, Brandon perked right up. He loves hunting rodents. Our logo is a rodent for that reason. Anyways, he got the address and said he'd be right over. She said it wasn't necessary since it was late, but he insisted. He shows up, and the tenant shows him where the attic access is in the garage. Brandon pokes his head in, and a full-size adult Norway rat decides to play parkour on his head. We get a one-shot set up for him. We show up in 2 days. Brandon, me, our 12-year-old son, Jude, and our Lhasa Apso Terrier mix, Luna. Luna is a machine when it comes to rodent hunting. Brandon put her in the attic, and she went running on every trail she could find. Brandon set up some traps, and we got Luna down. She immediately started hitting on a few drawers. Jude pulled them out, and Luna pulled out a nest of 4 pups. She unalived them all. She did this 4 more times. Afterwards, we had her relax, and Jude and I sat at the entrance of the attic with airsoft guns ready to hit any rodent that came running by. It was like a carnival game up there. We ended up getting him and his awesome dog their house back. He's now a monthly client and hasn't had an issue inside in almost a year.
I love these stories.
Fantastic. Good job.
Jack, I mean, every damn story that we've talked about tonight has been just pure gold.
Hell yeah.
They always, every single one of them's had a happy fucking ending.
Oh, definitely. Well, that's what we do. We're good with happy endings, whether it's at the color or on the job.
Yeah. Exactly. Boy meets rat, boy kills rat. Life is good.
Yes. But no, I can tell you, everybody that submitted, Candace, Eric McPhee, and Ruben Romero, I believe it. Yep. Thank you all very much for submitting those stories. That's fucking awesome. Keep them coming, please.
Yes. And thank you very much, Kevin, for popping in and seeing us. And
definitely,
the door to the crawl space is always open to you, but
most certainly, and he's skinny.
Thank you, Jordan, for having me. It's my pleasure to be here as always.
And he's skinny enough to get through the entrance to the crawl space. So,
fucking A, he is. Yeah. I carry a can of Crisco with me in the truck just for that particular reason.
We're stuck in here. They just turn the mics on once a week, so.
Exactly. That's right. Okay, you guys can talk now. but you know what? I think we've had a pretty good time here tonight, and I just want to thank every single one of you that has contributed a story. Please keep it up. I mean, you guys, this is we're here for you. So this is a great place to get your stories out. Not everybody that we've got. Pest Control Humor Depot, my favorite group, is a great place to vent your spleen. But if you want to get it out to somebody other than the cheese bags, let's hear your story, because there's a lot of listeners out here, and everybody wants to hear them, and they're looking forward to them every single week. So thank you once again for contributing. Thank you again, Kevin, for your contributions today. You and I have got to get together in person one of these days.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I may be coming your way next weekend, bud, so I'll update you about that.
Next weekend? All right. We'll see if we can work that out.
All right.
Love to have a meet and greet with you, man. So on behalf of Kevin Wilhite, Jack Starry, and myself, and Tales from the Crawl Space podcast, and everybody at PCHD, bug off.
Bug off.
Thanks for listening to Tales from the Crawl Space podcast. You can find us on just about every single podcast outlet there is online. So be sure to subscribe, and we'll have a new episode next week. Don't forget, you can find us on Instagram at TFTC Podcast, on Twitter at Crawl Space Tales, and you can also find us on Facebook at the Pest Control Humor Depot. See you next week.